Um, Hi everybody, I'm Marcia McCarrow,
Hello, I'm Carol Cooper.
and we're here today with Tony Robinson, OBE, who is the author of The Happipreneur, micro business champion, and the ambassador for the 3 million excluded businesses in the UK. Hello, Tony.
Hi, Marcia, and hi, Carol.
Hello.
Fantastic. Tony, could you please give us some information on how people can get in contact with you if they're interested in finding out more about what you do?
Yeah, it's easy to remember. TonyRobinsonOBE.com, and there's all my contact details on that website and lots of free information about enterprise, Microbiz Matters Day, everything is on that site. So you can get in contact with me in many different ways. And even my Twitter handle is Tony Robinson OBE. So that's it, TonyRobinsonOBE.com.
Fantastic. So we're here today to talk about your book. So we've gone through and had a read of it. And your book is called The Happipreneur and Why Showbiz Matters. And it showcases really your remarkable career to date and also your life journey. It's a mixture, isn't it, of sort of your professional life as well as your personal life, really, and how those two things have interlinked and entwined to culminate in who you are, I suppose, today. But I wanted to start by asking you, what is a micro business?
Yeah, well, it's different in different countries, but in the UK, it's any business with 0 to 9 employees. So it's really what people think of as a small business. Whereas a small business is 10 to 50 employees, and SMEs, if you ever hear that word, is,
Yeah.
yeah, that's 0 to 250 employees. Now, 99.9% of companies in Britain are SMEs, so it doesn't really make sense. And so we wanted to concentrate on helping micro businesses and micro business owners, and that's 0 to 9 employees. And that includes all the freelancers, self-employed people. 70% of them don't have any employees, and they get forgotten about, I'm afraid. And so that's why I spend my life campaigning on their behalf.
So how are you helping to shape then the lives of those micro businesses?
Yeah. Well, a number of ways. One is recognition, really, so that the press and government don't conveniently all the time change SMEs, which I've just described, into small businesses, and saying that they're actually helping small businesses when they're not helping 96% of the businesses that are micro businesses. So the first thing to do is get them recognized as a particular group of people that are very enterprising, and that's why you'll see me regularly quote well-known entrepreneurs that all started as one person and grew massive, massive businesses. Unless we support people in the first 3 years of doing their business, you won't get those fantastic businesses all the way around the world. So you've got to recognize how important micro businesses are. So that's the very first thing. And then the second thing is to actually make sure that I do whatever I can to level the playing field for them. So that's why you've got my campaigns such as pay in 30 days or less, because large companies pay micro businesses in an average of 70 days. And 70 days is too much for any micro business owners to wait. And so that's why I say that government, if they contract with any of these large companies, say, yeah, we'll give you the contract, or we'll bail you out, or we'll license you to do this, or we'll let you build your massive supermarket on the edge of town, or whatever it is. But as long as you pay all your bills within 30 days or less. So that's just one example of the kind of leveling the playing field for micro businesses. And the last thing is what the book is all about, which is about learning, which I know you're both very interested in as well, but it's about lifelong learning, really, to how to survive and thrive as a micro business owner. And so really the Happipreneur, it does use the vehicle of my memoir, as Taryn has written that part of it. But the other part, and the reason we wrote it, was that we needed a format to hang it to. And so we hang it to what I've learned and the people I've learned from on how you can survive and thrive as a micro business owner.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. Is there a motto, Tony, that you live your life by?
I'm a prolific reader, and so therefore it could change all the time. And I was thinking about when I've been asked this before, and I've settled on be kind. Just as simple as that.
Oh, nice.
Because I think that's the only one that has been kind of drummed into me, or I felt is important all the way through my life, whereas a lot of other things, I think Plato said, be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a battle. And we're all in the communications field, and it's all about putting yourself in other people's shoes, isn't it, and actually understanding them. And so be kind is actually not a weak thing, I don't think. It's actually forces you to listen and find out about people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a position of strength, isn't it, rather than a position of weakness, being kind.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can relate, really, as micro businesses, to your definition of the happypreneur, somebody that's focusing on that positive energy that they get from doing kind things for other people and supporting others, rather than, we understand that profit is important, but we haven't got that keen focus on the monetary element of running the business. Why was it important for you to make the distinction between the happypreneur and the entrepreneur?
That's an excellent question. It was really back to this question of recognition, really. I don't want to get into too much depth, but the UK and the USA are paired together, really, and they have redefined entrepreneur from what people would have known about it 100 years ago, if you like. That would have been a micro business owner in the community earning their living. Whereas the UK and the USA and all these gurus speaking from the stages, and lots of cults and lots of business opportunity companies and various things and governments, have actually created the entrepreneur into somebody that is wealthy. I mean, basically, you don't hear of an entrepreneur that isn't wealthy.
That's very true.
That's how they measure success. Well, you can be a happypreneur and an entrepreneur. You can actually be very wealthy as a happypreneur, but a happypreneur is a way of making a little distinction to what is the reason the majority of us, and this is a question for you and you two as well, really, is think about. The research that I've done, everything I do is backed by masses and masses of research. I've been lucky enough to be involved in this for a long time. 70% of people start up their own business to control their own destiny.
Yeah.
And the majority of them actually want to do something that they love doing. It's more than just a job. It's something that they want to control their own destiny and do something that actually makes them love. Now that is so different from what is promoted as the entrepreneur nowadays. The entrepreneur nowadays has got to have a pitch deck. They've got to pitch for funding. They've got to get in debt right at the beginning. They've got to have an exit strategy before they've even blooming well started, because they've got investors coming in. You've got investors coming in controlling their destiny, haven't you? Really? So does that make sense? It's that difference between the fact that most of us are actually quite happy in our own businesses as long as we're making ends meet and we're doing something that we actually want to do. Number one of my list of 10 values for what happypreneur is do something you enjoy doing and are good at. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really so important. I mean, you credit your time at Beverley Grammar as being pivotal, really, in your success and building up your knowledge bank around how to be successful in business. So I wanted to ask you, what were those nuggets of knowledge, and how did you apply them to get you to do all the things that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, the truth is, all the way through and through the book, and even today, I've actually said that, you know, I'm not a great fan of business. I mean, you know, I'm not, was never the driving force in anything I've done. My father was an entrepreneur, a
Yes.
successful entrepreneur. He had to, and he was in those Beverley Grammar School years because he died just before my A levels. And I had to learn to drive a car so that I could, within 3 months, so that I could actually deliver samples for him and various things. And he was quite a ruthless, difficult person. And he really put me off business altogether. But the qualities that you need to succeed in your own enterprise, as you rightly say, I learned during those times. I think my philosophy teacher, which I met when I was 19, is a chap called Lord Sachs. Well, he became Lord Sachs and he's just died. He became the chief rabbi and he was our philosophy lecturer. And a lot of the things I'd learned that I was able to debate with Lord Sachs had actually come from my learning at Beverley Grammar School and my home life together. And they are values, really, that carried me on through life and allowed me to, I think, you know, I'm on the creative side, really, to be creative and be enterprising as such. And I suppose the biggest thing, as say Lord Sachs, whose chief rabbi has just died now, but the Beverley Grammar School taught me that the we is more important than the I. And that is everything. If I've had any success at any time, it's that by the time I was doing my degree and I met and we discussed morality and ethics and all those kind of things together, and that stayed with me as much as be kind, if you like. I genuinely believe. And so that's one of the reasons that I've never run a business on my own. I've always had a business partner. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the ways you know, the thing I loved about playing cricket and sports at the highest level was I loved captaining a team, but I loved it because it was a team sport. So, and I learned all those things from Beverley Grammar School, really. You know, the great thing about a tough northern upbringing is that they're not great at praise and various things. You've actually got to get the satisfaction out of the team doing well. You know, they knock you down, don't you? If you're too big-headed about anything,
Yeah.
they really, you know. I mean, I had a period when I was like chief executive Amway, and all my mates that were at Beverley Grammar School would hardly talk to me. They thought, you know, what a swanky old whatever, you know. I mean, one of my classmates is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's worth 19 billion, as you saw in the book, and he's a friend of mine. He's one of the richest men in Britain, I think. He's usually the richest or the second to Dyson. And you know, I mean, the great thing is that I don't know what you say. There'll be a group of my Beverley Grammar School friends that'll be saying, I'm never going to speak to him, you know, because it'll be all stuck up. And then there's a group of us that know him really well, know that it'll be exactly the same because he'll have learned all the same values that we have by the time he's 19. And he's exactly the same. So that's what Beverley Grammar School did not just to me, did it to all of us, I think, as a group. And we all get together. You know, do you know what I mean? We're all friends still. You know, I'm 68 and we share those values and we were given it by a school.
That's wonderful.
That's really, really good. I mean, you've sort of led into the next question, really, because I'm interested to know about some of the negative voices that from the early days of you know, starting out in business, what those voices were saying and how you you know, overcame really that negativity?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is you've got to, in order to overcome the negativity, and it's a big negativity. If you've been, you know, as I was lucky enough to be traveling first class and all of those kind of things, and going around the world and all the most beautiful places in the world, and had a lot of money, and obviously I got 3 young kids by that time, and you know, quite a big house, and I decided to give all that up to actually create your own business. Then there's a lot of people telling you how foolish you are, number one. And number two, there's the other negative thought is, am I letting down my family and my mother at that time as well, who needed looking after, by this, you know, decision? You know, is it really, really selfish? And I think the way that I overcome it, and you know, this is something I think you will both know as HR professionals and various things. I think the important thing is to surround yourself with people. Actions speak louder than words, really. And so my business partner, Claire Francis, and I, who started up the business, and we started it up with somebody, we made a deal with them who'd been had run their business for 15 years, and we said that we'd have 30% shares in their business for a year, and they could have 30% shares in our business for the year, and we'll help each other for 1 year. And we did a deal. So how did I overcome them? That's how I overcome them. Claire Francis, my business partner, and this chap in the first year that knew a lot more about, because it's nothing like being a corporate chief executive or HR director. I was, you know, running your own business. You know, there was nothing I learned from all the hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on training me in management that prepared me for starting off with nothing to actually, you know, getting some money in and some customers and things like that. So that's the reason, you know, I was brought right down to earth by my business partner, Claire, who said I couldn't have a nice car and I couldn't have this, and we'd cut the cost to the minimum, and we'd bootstrapped out borrow, and we started with an overdraft, and that's how we started on. But you know, you kind of shut out the negative thoughts because you've got these doers. Does that make sense? For people that you're doing it day to day, you're just getting up in the morning and you're actually doing it. You're focusing on doing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, your things to do list and marking things off.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
You're not overthinking it at that stage because you've got two people that are helping you that are practical as well. And it's about practical actions, I think.
Yeah. Surround yourself with doers. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
The flip side of that is, I suppose, from the negative voices, is you talk a lot in your book about mentors and the mentors that you had in your life.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you about what you think the responsibilities are of a good mentor, because we can all call ourselves mentors, but you seem to talk about the good ones that you've had, and I'm interested to know about the responsibilities as you see them.
Yeah, I mean that's an incredibly tough and difficult question because I'm not keen at all on what the government tried to do with one of the companies I founded with Sveti, and the banks did with the government in creating this Mentors Me matching program, whereby an ex-bank manager, for example, to take an example, and there were lots of them, would be given to a startup business owner to mentor them because they knew more about business than this. You know, to me, that's patronizing and that's paternalistic. And a mentor is not that. You know, a mentor to me is somebody that actually knows something, has wisdom in an area that you feel you could actually benefit from. and the mentee approaches the mentor rather than the mentor
Yes.
pushing themselves on the mentee.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So that,
Yeah.
you know,
Excellent.
that would be it, really. I mean, I think that I go, you know, I go back to the Greeks and the way that a mentor was regarded then. I think that's exactly the same way. I think it, you know, I'm a great believer in the Stoics and things, and wisdom was one of the things that was a virtue. You know, the whole point of life to a Stoic is virtue, and one of those things is wisdom, and a mentor was there to provide that wisdom to those who asked it.
Yeah.
And that's why they met outside at the marketplace informally, and they do you know what I mean? Now, coaching is a different thing. I
Yes.
mean, I think, you know, I mean, I think I've never been a life coach or anything, but you know, for example, a tennis coach or whatever, you wouldn't have a tennis coach that didn't have the respect of the player because they'd played tennis at a good level themselves, or at least they knew the rules.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, the men, you know, they wouldn't be a good coach. On the other hand, a life coach could be somebody that is an absolutely brilliant questioner, listener, summarizer, somebody that can actually just, you know, I would say I've never been one, but I could see myself going to people and saying, look, you know, you've got some things to tell me about, you know, how to get more out of my life than I am doing at the moment, you know, and I can see that actually happening. So again, the bit I don't like about coaches is the ones that assume they've got something to give to somebody without having the skills
Yeah. Yeah.
in order to do that.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm anti the prescriptive, you know. Everybody can have their own beliefs,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
We shouldn't we
Absolutely.
shouldn't we shouldn't mess around with that, really.
No, not at all.
You advocate for the micro business, and one of the things that I liked about your book was that you talked about how you small businesses should get together and maybe swap ideas and feed into that spirit of collaboration rather than competitiveness.
Yeah.
So I read that and I liked it and I warmed to it, and then I thought, oh, in this climate, can we really can we really be in this spirit of collaboration? How realistic is it for businesses to operate in this way, especially in light of the fact that, you know, there's that competitive nature in all of us really that go into businesses for ourselves.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. I mean, you're on the right side of this at the moment, because I think the competitiveness side is definitely winning, and the collaborative side is definitely losing. Again, Lord Sachs, in his last speech, I think major speech in a theatre in March before he died, actually said that his latest book is called Morality, how to create the common good in a divided world. And yeah, he basically said that back to this we rather than I, in actual fact, we've moved very fast over the last 20 years, well, to the selfie age. Basically, the I has become so much more important than the we. But that will never stop me trying, Marcia and Carol,
Yeah.
because I actually believe, like him, that what we are doing is destroying the world and the environment and everything as a result of that competitiveness. I mean, I curate something called the Smallest Beautiful Roll of Honor. I think number 5 on the list is unlimited growth is pathological, and people ask me, what does that mean? Well, if all you're doing as a large company is making as much money as you can for your shareholders, like McDonald's gave out 15 billion to their shareholders last year, but the majority of their staff are on below the minimum wage. If any of them get cancer, they will be bankrupt. You know, if you 100 companies in the world provide 70% of the carbon emissions. You know, we've got to the stage where that competitiveness is actually, you know, killing the world really. And so therefore I will continue. And fortunately, there are many, many people that I've connected with over my long career that are building communities, do believe in collaboration. And I can honestly tell you that the way that a startup is more likely to has an 80% chance of surviving 3 years is if they work collaboratively rather than competitively. And, you know, I say a number of things, you know, bootstrap, don't borrow, test trade first, ask a business owner who understands about your customers, all those kind of things. But the important thing is, you know, plug yourself into that community, you know, of people that are actually going to help each other, give each other a helping hand. And I think that's tremendously important. So you're winning. I mean, I've just done a post on LinkedIn. My normal posts, if they're fluffy and they're fun and that kind of thing, they get thousands of views. And
Yeah.
you know, they you know, it's, and as a writer, I love that. It's really good. And I get lots of likes. I wrote a post today about the fact that Annika Hicks, who was one of the founders of Excluded UK, broke down on LBC yesterday about the 7 suicides they've had in the Excluded UK community, because it's all happened over the last 10 days. And I said, basically, here's the donate button. If you've got a fiver, stick a fiver into, because all that money will go into providing mental health support for those that need it. Hardly any likes at all. I don't think there's one, actually. I don't think there's one like of that post. There's not one contribution. There have been a few hundred views. But that's the difficulty, isn't it? You know, I don't want to be gloomy or being upbeat, but you are right. People like me, and, you know, fortunately thousands of others in the UK do believe in collaborative. In most other countries, you know, I'm sure you know that this isn't the case. This is a purely UK and American phenomenon. It's not the same in Australia. It's not the same in New Zealand. It's not the same in Canada. You know, the startup communities help each other to survive and thrive.
Yeah, and they refer to each other.
Yeah,
I long for the day.
You know, and generations look after the generation coming up. That's a normal part of life.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, Carol and I have had many a conversation where we've said we long for the day, really, where, you know, people that we approach don't treat us with suspicion, that, you know, we're trying to do something good, and we want to work with you. We're not trying to take your client list. We're not trying to, we need help, and we're coming to you because we see that you're doing something good. Could we, you know, think about how we could piggyback? But it's like seen with so much suspicion all the time. But there are people out there. There are people out there that are willing to work and collaborate, and you're absolutely right. You just have to find those people that you can collaborate with. But it isn't easy. It isn't easy.
No,
and on that note, I will just pass over to CC, Carol, who's going.
Oh, lovely, great.
That was great. Now I've got to join in.
You'll have to stop me talking too much, though, Carol. I realise I've been talking.
No, this is brilliant.
This is about us dragging as much out of you as possible. And I totally agree with the Australian levels and ethic, because my family have a business out there and they all help each other constantly. And when you said it, I thought how right he is, you know, really. Anyway, that aside, Milo, that aside. But our work here at DYBC is around helping people, which we've just been talking about, supporting individuals to find their balance.
Yeah.
And now that balance can be in their personal lives or their business lives. So what I was interested to read in your book was the analysis of large shareholder companies. You say these companies provide the most employment and the least happiness.
Yes.
So just interested to have your take on that.
Yeah. It's a cultural crisis, is what large companies are doing to civilization, really, humanity. In the UK and the USA, and of course that leads down to the politicians, because all the politicians make their money, even the UK politicians, who are all multimillionaires in the cabinet, they make their money down the road from American large corporations. As Edward Bernays said, who was the father of public relations, that our lives are being controlled by invisible men. And they are pursuing growth. So, for example, when I was in HR, an HR director, we actually had there was a rule kind of in the UK that it would be gross, really, if the chief executive was paid any more than 6 to 7 times more than the average employee's earnings. Because that's a huge gap, isn't it? It's absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Well, the average FTSE 100 company, the large shareholders you've just mentioned, Carol, the average CEO is paid 120 times more than the and the chief executive of Disney has just retired, and he's resigned, and he was paid 1,030 times more than the average employee. Now, the other side of that is that they actually treat people as purely productive commodities in a chain of producing wealth. And so therefore, all the research shows that, in these large companies, the majority of people are under stress. 70% of them are actually under stress. And they do things like, one of the reasons that, you hear so much about things like goal setting, and I won't mention because I haven't got enough money to defend myself legally, but a large company that's a bank, for example, is notorious for setting goals that it knows that cannot be achieved. And it doesn't matter the fact that they will burn out lots of people as a result of actually trying to achieve. Well, look at the financial crash. You've only got to look at that to see what the consequences of this way of doing things. So that's my take on it, if you like, that pursuit of incredible wealth. And it's moving so quickly. I started doing a show called the Micro's Magic Show. I was on tour with it for a couple of years. And I started that about 3 years ago. And when I started it, 120 people in the world actually earns as much as the poorest 50%, 3.5 billion of the whole population. 120 people earn as much as the 50% poor. But the kicker to that is the fact that it's now 23. That's how fast this production machine is. And you'll notice during the pandemic that nobody's actually talking about these massive losses in share value.
No, that is not
absolutely. The FTSE 100 companies are doing absolutely. Yeah. Look at. I mean, if this was a war, the pandemic was a war, we'd be saying this profiteering is terrible, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
The defense of our country, and there's these there's all these Chinese and American personal protective equipment companies making billions.
The contracts for that.
Big farmers are going to make billions. The pursuit of it is fantastic. And who wins when you take a loan? The banks.
Always. I've never known a bank lose. Back in the 80s, they were throwing money at you.
Exactly.
Here, have this at a very low rate, and then we'll
Exactly.
come and get you later. Yeah.
But that, I mean, it's a really important point. That I mean, you're the first person that's asked me that question and all the different things I'm doing. But that is the reason that it was a 2-year project based on trying to write the new Small is Beautiful.
Nice.
Because Schumacher actually said that in 73, 74. He said what is happening now was going to happen if we didn't actually recognize and support small enterprise, which is more likely to be part of the community, collaborative, just, right. And in a community, if you know somebody who's a blacksmith, let's take an old one, or a baker, or
trade,
something like an old trade, or whatever. You can't get away with anything in a village community.
No.
You can't con people, or else you don't have any customers.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
And because they're part of the community, they're doing something useful. But on the other side, nobody's going to set them unrealistic targets.
No.
If they want,
they want them to survive because they need whatever the trade is in the town. Correct. Instead of going, 50 miles somewhere else, or
that's it.
Going online now, as people do. But yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So my next question, reading in your book about leaving your mark. So how important is it for you to continue to leave your mark?
I mean, I think that I don't see it as such as a legacy as such, but I do think that one of the reasons, we're kind of here to, I'm an atheist, so everything I do is based on philosophy kind of thing. My wife is a devout Catholic. Lord Sachs was a chief rabbi, if you like. So it's not a religious, thing or a legacy kind of thing in that kind of respect. But the mark, I think, is that we each of us have a duty to be as useful as we can during our lifetime. And that's all I do it. And because I'm kind of like, as Leonard Cohen would have said, I'm in the third act of my life. And I don't know what the ending is going to be. Then a lot of people say, oh, you should be winding down. Well, I'm thinking, no, actually, I should be winding up here. I should be doing more each day than I've done before because I haven't got as many days left. So it's how to be useful in more days. And if that leaves a mark. So therefore, it would be rather nice if this concept of Schumacher's work, The Small is Beautiful, and The Small is Beautiful Roll of Honor I've done, and some of the social enterprises I'm involved in continue for many, many more years after I've gone on. That would be great. So that would be absolutely fantastic. And that's all I could ask, really.
Well, I think you probably remember as well being brought up in a small town. That was how we worked.
Yeah.
How our parents lived, and
absolutely
small community. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, it isn't any. I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned so much. I've only, as you know from the book, I mean, I can only really say the last 10 years I've actually lived this day to day. I mean, I had to go away for a year to Malta and actually come back and resign from Svedi, which I'd completely owned before and I'd founded, and the Institute of Enterprise and Entrepreneurship, and resigned again, all my salaries, most of my income, if you like, coming in, and decided what I was going to do. So it's only the last 10 years I've been able to honestly say that I've lived this approach day to day to day to day. But what I do know is that once you are doing it, there is a fantastic amount of, what can I say, positive energy and goodwill, if you like, that really keeps you going. you know, you get a lot of trolls on social. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is that the wonderful thing is that it is a happy way to live, isn't it? Really, being useful is a happy way to live, and you know, so that's great.
One of my gratitudes every day is to thank the universe for my usefulness and not my uselessness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
lovely.
I do that every day because I think, well, I
Oh,
must
I
do
love
something
that.
right.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I
I
think
know, I do it every day. Thank
yeah,
him. And yes, absolutely.
I think that's absolutely great. Yeah, and I don't know if either of you have felt this, but I think the other thing is that um, time, you actually get more out of every minute because you're actually looking around. And you know, my business partner said I'm a 10 times better, I think my wife's even said it as well, I'm a 10 times better listener
All right. Yeah.
in less, I'm more curious now
Yeah.
about things and, you know, nature and things like that. No, no.
But isn't that lovely? Yeah, that
Yeah,
really is lovely because it just makes you feel so much better.
yeah, and
Like,
I think it's
yeah.
because you're actually not concentrating on yourself as much. Does that make sense?
Total. For me, I know Marcia will be nodding there as well because that's the way her and I work really. You know, we've worked so long together now. That's just the way we like it. You know, and it works. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So another
did
type
you
of
work
question
together? Did you work together before you actually started the business as well?
Yes. Yeah.
we did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we were,
so a bit like myself with Claire Francis, my business partner.
yes,
You
yes,
actually knew that you could work together by the time you know,
yeah.
because that's a huge thing, isn't it? In terms of happiness, enterprise, earning a living together. A lot of partnerships strike up at startup, don't they?
Mm.
And
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that must be a bit as dangerous as having an investor in your business
Yeah.
in some ways, because until you've actually really got to know somebody, you don't really know that you can work with them. I don't think. What do you think?
well, I don't, I mean, Marcia and I just, I suppose the best way to answer that, the simple way, is that we just gelled, we understood each other, we appreciated our qualities in each other. We understood the other sides of our natures because everybody's got two sides. But the majority wins, you know, we're 95%, we're always positive, as best we can be, supportive, listen,
Great.
and virtually almost able to answer each other's questions before it's finished, really, or have an understanding immediately about, you know, what's being discussed or what's on one's mind or something like that. So it's always
And have you got different skills from each other?
Mm.
yes.
Yes.
Very,
No,
very much so.
I think
I'm
that's
much more processy in
right.
terms of
Okay.
my background and
Thank
how I
goodness.
like to do things. And you're not so processy. You're
Nope.
more of the collaborator, the networker,
Yeah.
the out at the front doing the presentation sort of person.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I think that's why it works as
Oh,
well.
for sure. You know, we've had the test, haven't we? We know what each other and Peter, Marty's husband, as well in the business. We know what our credits to our abilities are, and it works. You know, like I say, it really works. So, you know, if we're having a function or whatever's going on, the three of us work differently to bring it all together, and it gels, doesn't it? If we're having, you know, one of our awards.
fabulous. So you regard it as three of you in the business, do you? Really?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. You see, it does relate to your other point. I think it's really important for anybody. Let's say they've got a family member thinking of starting up a business. You know,
Mm.
um, one of the things that, you know, I keep going on about is the difference between 20% people surviving the first 3 years,
Mhm.
like the investor-led type, and 80% surviving the first 3 years. And you've just hit on it, really. Is the guy called Dr. Ernesto Ciroli. You can see him on YouTube and everything, millions of views and things. And he believed in enterprise facilitation. He believed in all the things I believe about Stoics. He learned from small is beautiful as well. And his key point is that you've got to create something beautifully, you've got to market it beautifully, and you've got to manage the money beautifully. And he's never met anybody that could do all three things.
Yeah.
And there isn't an entrepreneur in the world. Now, the other thing is that that word beautifully means to actually do things well. You actually don't get anywhere doing things at an average level in your own business. So doesn't that take you in the direction of collaborating with people that have got the other skills as a reason for your future success? So that's fantastic.
I think we also do it from our inner feelings as well, just to put a finer note on it. You know, it's how we feel about the business, and it's how we feel, you know, about its success. But we equally want people to enjoy what we deliver. We want people to enjoy that. And, you know, we talked about mentoring.
Too, don't we? We need to come back, otherwise.
Yeah, so please come back, because we've got more to say, you know. Yeah. But I always say about mentoring, if I'm mentoring anybody, it's around getting them to convince themselves or talk to you, and it's about you being understanding, you know.
I agree.
It's nothing to do with
entirely.
It's not instruction whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yes, we go back a long way.
Fabulous, fabulous.
But a different sort of question here. What, Tony, is your most treasured possession and why?
Oh, well,
different question.
This is where everybody will go to sleep, but it's an East Riding Schools cricket cap.
Oh, how wonderful. I was going to call you the East Yorkshireman earlier on, and I didn't. But I didn't
so it's an East Riding Schools cricket. And the important thing for me was that I'm terrible at trials. It's like one of the things I like about interviews is that I do a lot of public speaking, as you know, and I do a lot of talks and things like that. And I always lose a night's sleep, because if I'm thinking about something in advance before I do it, it doesn't matter, you know, I've done thousands. I've spoken in front of 15,000 people at the NEC. But I get incredibly nervous. You know, I've never been able. I've had a friend of mine who, famous actor, and he said that actors still do and various things. He said, you know, nobody's been able to cure them of it. So it's not an unusual thing. But an interview is absolutely fine. So back to my cap, I'd actually failed all the trials because of my nerves. I'd actually completely failed them to get into the East Yorkshire Schools cricket team. And by sheer weight of runs, about halfway through the season, he said, we've got to get this guy in the team. Yeah. Wow. And so to get my little cap through a lot of hard work, a lot of practice, etc. And I wasn't in the squad, you see, at the beginning of it. So that was kind of the view that perseverance and practice can pay off, really. And that's what I wanted to do, because at that stage, I was actually hoping that, you know, I might be able to be good enough to be a professional cricketer, kind of thing. So I needed to get in the East Yorkshire schools before I could progress.
Wow, you must be so
proud. Hard work.
Absolutely, a lot of work, and
well, it's a big thing to Yorkshire people, and
I know.
You know, and you know, unfortunately, men and women now, you know, but in those days, you had to be born in Yorkshire to play for Yorkshire, and obviously the most successful county ever. So it was a it really was a big thing, but most people, you know,
fantastic. Well done, you. That's what. Yeah, you did have to be born. I don't know about now, but you did have to be born.
No, not now. No, not now.
No, right, okay. My next question on the other side of the coin. So, is what's your most treasured business memory to date, and why?
Oh, that's a really difficult thing. I would say that I would say it's our Claire and I's two anniversaries, dues parties that we actually held. One was for our fifth anniversary, I think, and the other one was for our 18th coming of age anniversary. We were in business 32 years together. And it was just the fact that we had a fantastic parties. The second one was at the Cafe Royal in London, which was rather
Very nice.
posh and
Very
various
nice.
things like that. And I just felt we were with all of our clients and people that we'd worked with, both of them. They're like most things I do, they're fairly crazy. So we had magicians and things like that in entertainment, and it's just fun. It wasn't, anything serious at all. But you're with the people that you've spent a lot of time with over the previous years, if you like, and it's kind of just like looking through the room and thinking, this is a bit special, really. And us two, we've done this together. Don't know how we've done it, but no idea. But we have, and the point is that at the 18th anniversary, there were all the same clients that were there on the 5th anniversary.
Really?
So they may not actually have been giving us any work at that time, but they'd all remained in contact with us and all were keen to come along and enjoy it.
That is a good memory.
Yeah.
There was two. It was just looking around the room at the faces, nothing more, and thinking, oh, this was a good idea for me and Lee to go into business.
Me and Lee.
Me and Lee. Wow, Yorkshireman now. So, Tony, we all have one strength, and we have ability or skill that really stands out from all the others. And I think this is particularly so in business, where we're often having to do many different things and varying tasks on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. What do you consider to be your business superpower and why?
Yeah, I think everything that we do as a skill is learned. So I think that, our superpowers aren't traits, just a trait. I think that our superpowers are learned. And mine is win-win negotiating. So it's negotiating skills. And as you know from the book, I actually got into HR because I was interested in being in industrial relations manager. I knew I had to get a postgraduate diploma in personnel management in order for NCR to get me into industrial relations. So that's where I learned the skill, first of all, about win-win negotiations and making deals. And basically, I honed those over many years, and lots of training courses, lots of learning, lots of. I actually found both of you have done a lot of training, and I actually found myself learning an awful lot about what I could do better in terms of questioning, listening, summarizing, gaining movement, all of those kind of things, out of watching other people. I was maybe videoing their skills and various things. I realized that I'd got into some bad habits and various things.
Yeah.
And then we actually made a considerable amount of our money by writing case studies and bespoke training programs for senior. All of our clients were mainly in large companies. So senior executives that had to do negotiating and big deals, we wrote bespoke programs so that it was as close to real life as it possibly could. And I learned a lot from coaching and working with these executives. So I can honestly say that in every part of life, but particularly in enterprise negotiation, there's always been a deal And remember, I'm talking about win-win negotiation. I'm talking about both parties leaving absolutely happy that they've, no, seriously, they've got something good and positive out of it, and you know they've made an agreement that is going to stick because they actually believe that they've both got something good out of it. And you can do that with anybody. You can do that with a supplier, but you can also do it with a customer. You can do it with you know, when you're broke, like we've often been in business, you can often get somebody as an employee to come and join you, and you'll negotiate lots of different things, like you know, that they can work from home all the time, or they can work crazy hours, or they, you know, do you know, there's always a deal that is beneficial to
be made for the satisfactory side, both sides.
To both of you, and you know, you're balancing money and time, and you know, motivation, and you know, it's a fantastic kind of thing, really. And I think one of the things that is one of the great myths about all the top entrepreneurs is that they've grown their business because of investment and money and everything like that. Most of them have grown it by making a great deal at some point in time. For a property. And actually, and the growth isn't like, you know, it goes up and down. Businesses go up and down, and suddenly they'll actually, you know, like a number of people I talk, they'll actually be working with a supplier, and they'll say, could we do something around this? And they'll suddenly find that they'll collaborate on something brand new, and it'll take the whole business in a completely different direction. It's all done by creating a deal. So more growth actually comes through deal making than anything else.
And these, you never know when this opportunity or these opportunities will present themselves on any one day, will you? So, you know, it's just good luck, good management, and a lot of hope.
And the wonderful thing is that where there's a power imbalance as well, negotiating allows you to, if you're good enough at questioning and finding out what's important to them, it allows you to correct the imbalance. So the large company is more likely to pay me so much up front for a speaking engagement, even though I'm a one-person business. If I've actually found out how important me speaking at their event is.
Does
that make sense? And so it's ingrained in me now.
That's great. Right, Marty, I'm making notes.
I'm making notes.
Oh, bless you. Tony, we've talked a lot about your professional success, but just I wanted to ask you what two things would you say have contributed most to your professional success in particular?
Claire Francis, my business partner, and my wife Eileen.
That's
lovely. Yeah,
I like that.
I like that. I think
no, seriously, I couldn't have, you know, we're talking of knowing Claire 37 years and my wife a lot more than that.
Did you meet your wife in town in Beverley, or she girl from somewhere?
No, that was we were doing the same degree, where Lord Sachs was the philosophy lecturer. It was English literature and philosophy joint.
Good common ground.
So we're both 19.
Oh, right, okay. Tony, my last question, sadly, I say sadly underlined because I'm really enjoying this. Is there a book or an article that you've recently read that's had a significant impact on your journey? I'd love you to tell us about that if you could, and just to explain the significance of that.
Okay. Well, it'd be Hard Times by Charles Dickens.
Oh, right, okay.
And one of the worst things about doing an English degree is they absolutely cram you with books. So you end up not liking books at all. So it's only, you said recently, so it's only recently, if you like, that I've reread Hard Times. I've always been quite interested in Dickens because there's a lot of characteristics in him as a person that I truly admire, and he was a very entrepreneurial person in himself, a brilliant actor, fantastic magician, great theatre producer, lots of things that I really admire. The point about Hard Times is that with Bleak House that was written just before it was written when he was about 50. So he was not, this wasn't a flash. He'd really thought about this kind of thing. It's not regarded as one of his great novels, but the important thing is that it distinguishes between facts, people, productivity, all those things that companies that we were talking about push on you, and fancy, which is the word they used then for creativity and enterprise and enjoying life and happiness. And there's a monologue which is by the guy Sleary, who is the runs the horse fair in the book at the end, and that I think is Dickens. Well, it is Dickens speaking. It's a monologue at the end of the thing. And Sleary has a lisp, and Dickens had a lisp, and basically it says to this guy, Gradgrind, who'd moved from being only interested in facts, teach the kids facts, no interest in creativity, if you like, no various things like that, which is a terrible way of educating, isn't people? But that's what they did. And then the factory lives in the textile factories, which is Hard Times was about, was kind of, and Sleary basically was saying, we're good people. We want to enjoy our time together and looking after each other and our lives together, and allow us our creativity and our enterprise and some time for ourselves. And basically it's as simple as that, but it's just absolutely fantastic because it almost portrays the small is beautiful world, doesn't it, against the these the almost corrupt textile factory owners and bank owners of the time, which is what it's about. It's about a bank owner and a factory owner and teaching facts and things like that. So therefore you weren't allowed as a kid in those days to actually say why you loved a dog. You had to be able to describe the makeup of a dog kind of thing in terms of the
Totally different way to answer the question, isn't it? Absolutely. You're not asked about
so definitely Hard Times. It's not well recognized, but it's
I've only heard of it. I've never read it.
Fantastic lesson for us, kind of thing. He only wrote two that are satires. I think that was Bleak House and then Hard Times. So that's why I don't think it's been particularly well recognized. But reading it again, it's a fantastic book.
Well, if you recommend it, I've read most of the stuff, so I might even have a go at that.
I'm absolutely certain I enjoy it.
I've got another question for you, if you don't mind. What do you think we, the general public, can realistically do to support micro businesses now, during this time that we're living in, and into the future?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things, and that's one of the reasons we have a Microbiz Matters Day, and our 7th one is second week in, it's always the second Friday of the year. We say a number of things there. One is your micro businesses are the best for communities, absolutely no doubt about it. So recognize that, talk to them. in your community, say that you appreciate they're actually part of the community and the things that they're doing for the community. Buy from them when you can. You know, we're not asking you to actually, you know, if you can get a cheaper deal somewhere else, we realize that kind of thing. But if you can buy from a micro business owner, then, you know, it is so important to our communities, then do so. And the other thing is, as part of the community, they'll give you a helping hand when times are tough. And maybe you will give them a helping hand when times are tough for them, because it is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It is all going to be ups and downs. And I think that that's how a community should work, really. It, you know, recognizes each other. That talking to other is very important, because, you know, it really is a nugget of gold. It's like, you know, very kindly did a review of the Happipreneur.
Yeah.
The only way that we improve in anything is by getting some feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the way that a micro business owner will knock any large company's offering for the same product or service is because they're closer to the customer than the large companies that put the selling and all that kind of thing down to somebody really junior that's so far away from the decision makers that they haven't got a clue. Micro business owners can flex and do things. So just you giving some information to the micro business owner to say, you know, I really like that, but wouldn't it be a good idea if you,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
just that bit of feedback.
I do that with my local greengrocer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real nugget of gold to us as micro business owners, that feedback. And so those are the three things I would say.
Tony, I thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed that part, you and I, in that part of the interview.
Right.
I'm now going to hand you back to Marcia, who I know will look forward to asking you the next set of questions.
Thank you.
We're coming towards the end, Tony, now. You'll be glad.
Thank you. No, it's been great fun.
When I say set of questions, that probably put fear into you, but no, it's been the last couple
Thanks, Gar. No, I mean, they were fantastically interesting questions, and they really made me think. So really appreciate it.
That's good. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I wanted to do the last few questions, really, to ask you, first of all, about contentment and how you find contentment, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, as I say, again, I can only really say that I've found it fully in the last 10 years, since 2010. I probably can't describe it as contentment, but I can state it as a state of fulfillment and pretty continuous happiness.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm sure you've met people that are either so competitive that they don't actually ever really enjoy themselves. You know, they're driven people, but they don't actually
enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're not very easy to chill with, really, are they? You know, kind of thing. And I think a state of fulfillment is whereby you're actually enjoying life and the people you're with. We are social animals, after all, you know. And although I love my own company and I love my year on my own in Malta, I wasn't really on my own, because I was still actually, you know, going into a bar or having a coffee or chatting to a gym owner, or somebody would say hello to me while I was running around the street. So do you know what I mean? And it's just that feeling as in society of actually feeling, you know, you've got a little bit of a place in it. You feel quite fulfilled, tremendously motivated to do something every single day. You know, you really are. You know, and it's that state of like, you know, I'm living a fulfilling life. I've, you know, and I'll have a long, you know, I'll die with this long list of things that I still want to do.
Well, that's great. That's brilliant, isn't it?
And that's where fulfillment comes. But it only comes from it, I think, if you're doing something that you enjoy doing as well. So that's where I'd say fulfillment through a kind of happy state.
Yeah. Lovely.
So what does the future hold then for Tony Robinson OBE?
Well, I think the first thing is probably to, you know, for as long as it takes, I'm going to do as much as I can for the excluded UK group. So I'm doing all my talks and giving money from the books, etc., to do as much as to help them, and everybody I know that I think can be influential on the government to actually help them, I'll do that. So yeah, it's likely that I'm chair of Yorkshire in Business, which is an enterprise agency. I'm tremendously proud of the work they do for startups, and I'm patron of the John Cracknell Youth Enterprise Bank, and I'm tremendously proud of what they do in Hull for young enterprising people, usually from disadvantaged areas, and we give them little grants and lots of mentoring and lots of business advice and help, and get them from universal credit onto actually, you know, earning a living out of their own businesses. So, you know, so I will continue all of those three things. And then on a personal level, I'm, you know, one novel into a trilogy of novels.
Oh, nice.
So,
Right. Okay.
so that's pretty important to me.
Yes.
Again, it won't surprise you to know that at the moment I'm looking for a collaborator on that trilogy, who has to be a magician. I won't explain what the whole thing is about, but
Right. Okay.
they don't have to do as much writing as I do, but they do need to collaborate with me. It's got to be a woman. It's got to be a magician.
Right.
So those three things going, and then we're hoping next year to spend the last few years of our life, my wife and I, and I've got my two boys here and my daughter temporarily because of COVID, but we're hoping to move to Ireland.
Oh, wonderful.
Fabulous.
So because my wife is Irish, and it's really her turn, I think.
Yeah, to get back there. I'm sure she's longing to get back.
Yeah.
To get back there.
Yes, wonderful land. Yeah.
So, Tony, can you please kindly tell us again how people can get hold of you if they're interested in finding out more about any of the stuff that we've gone through today? Your website addresses, anything that you can give us in terms of contacts.
Absolutely great. Thank you very much, Marcy and Carol. Yes, I mean, TonyRobinsonOBE.com. Just go there, and everything else is there. My Twitter, my Facebooks, my everything else. And the most important thing, we've spent, you know, about 10 or 15 years developing that website, and everything is free on it. No pop-ups, no ads or whatever for anybody that's interested in enterprise. And, you know, all the videos and things are not just by me. There's lots of people I really respect that have contributed to it and things. So you won't get an email from us. You won't end up on the contact details saying nothing will happen to you at all.
Your inbox won't be stuffed.
Yeah, exactly. Just no upselling.
Yeah.
just go on TonyRobinsonOBE.com. You find about me, and you'll be able to follow me on social media or whatever you want to do. But do have a look at the videos and the articles and the startup guides and all the different things on there.
Fantastic. This is the final bit of the interview where Carol and I give you some feedback on the messages that we're taking away from the conversation that we've had with you today.
Well, hang on a second. I'm just going to get a pen. So,
well, what I will do is also get these. I'll type them up. We'll type them up and we'll get them over to you in an email. But by all means, you know,
if you miss something, you'll get it. You know, so don't worry. But
lovely, thank you.
By all means.
So I'm going to start off because I know Carol and I have probably got a lot of the same, so I'm going to get in there first.
Probably got lots of the same.
And you can have what's left. I'll promise not to take them all. I mean, I've got pages and pages of stuff, but these are some. I'm just going to pick out a few that have really resonated with me. One that you said quite latterly in the interview about growth and making sure that you're making good deals. to have growth in your business. And that's something that we need to go back and, I think, have a look at, CC, and look at how well are we making those deals, and linked into that, correct the balance of power to enable you to make those good deals. I love that. That's really stuck it in my mind. Become curious. Don't concentrate on yourself. Take the focus off you and put it onto other people, because then by doing that, you're actually looking at their needs rather than your own. So for me, that again, a really good message. In this time of the pandemic, you can get caught up in, oh, you know, what am I going to do and how are we going to do this? Take the focus off you and put it back on the need. What's needed out there? You know, a really good reminder. Be useful. Simple, but actually highlighted and underlined several times. Be useful. Absolutely, be useful. Surround yourself with people that help each other. And we try and do that, but that's a really nice reminder to try and surround yourself with people that help each other. Yeah, so they're the ones, but I'll type them all up and I'll make sure you've got them all. So I'll pass over to CC.
Thank you. You're writing my next speech for me. It's wonderful.
Tony, all the above, and because I've just been marking them off as Marty's been more or less talking about them. But I did like the bit about correcting the balance of power, because one thing I do, and Marcia knows I do it, that if I'm not sure about what's going on in the room, I sit very quietly and absorb like the sponge about what's going on, and I pick up on people's needs and wants, and I think that's probably a little bit about what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I took that on board, because I thought, you know, sometimes you think you ought maybe not to, but I just realised again the importance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
can I just say something there? Have you both been on negotiating skills courses?
Oh, many years ago. I think we did that in regional office, didn't we?
A long time ago.
Well, the most important skill in negotiating is what I call hunting for variables. It's hunting because you haven't got any chips to trade if you don't hunt for those things that can actually change, like a delivery date or you know, who's involved in the team, how long it takes to do this, what the cost is, what free PR you can give. But it's about their needs and wants, Carol, that you've just put down there. That's actually another word for variables.
Right, okay.
Because that means it makes sense, because you're actually trading something that's low cost to you, that's high value to them. But if you don't know what their needs and wants are that are high value.
So do you do training days on this stuff, Tony? Just out of interest.
I don't anymore. We should do.
Well, that's a shame.
Why don't we do a negotiating skills video together, and it can
it
can be one of your company's videos. I'm happy to do it. I love it. I mean, it's absolutely great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's great.
But anyway, all I was saying is you're spot on. It's about, you can't actually negotiate unless you've, you know, it's like a lot of people go in and they assume that what they want is a cheaper deal. When in actual fact, they want it tomorrow and they'll pay whatever price it takes to get it to, you know,
it takes a while to get things to fruition. And you know, the other thing you said, the nugget of gold, which I loved, and I'm sure Marcia must have picked up on that as well, was to talk to each other. There's one thing about the listening, but it's when you're talking, it's picking up the bits and talking directly about those bits, if you know what I mean, instead of, well, I'm a great waffler as well, I suppose, but you know, when I try to not waffle. You just try to be a bit more direct. So those nuggets of gold are about talking about the needs and supporting each other in that area, you know. So and going back to talking to people in the community when you're buying from them, you know, asking them, could we do something a different way, or try to invent something else, and it works out for them as well. You never think about that, but you know, it's probably more appreciated than not.
Yeah, and I think that the majority of you know, people like Lord Sugar, who I mentioned in the book, that's one of the things that people get the wrong impression from things like The Apprentice, but he's a brilliant listener. He's exceptionally funny. And because he's a man of the street, he actually knows what the value of a pound is.
Yeah.
It's because he listens to people on the street.
Yes. And he has come from that background. It's well known. If
it's invaluable. That's the only way he could create all the things he's created and get and they'd be sold. Yeah.
And also one of the special things, which is very simple but so effective, you know, do something that you enjoy doing. You know, and enjoy the people that you work with as best you can. And in a micro business, you know, obviously, like the three of us work really well together, it is important to get on, but to listen to each other as well and do something you enjoy, which we do. So but it's nice, it's good to take that on board again, because I think although we do all these things, you actually forget it in so many ways. You still appreciate it, but you do, you know, you do forget. And the Greeks have an awful lot to be very proud of, because Dad and I used to love Greek mythology, and I still do. Bless him, he's no longer here. But I followed you with the various quotes, so thank you.
Oh, great.
Because I have, I do take from that.
What's that person from Greek mythology that does the that Zeus gets, or to keep rolling a boulder uphill, and then the boulder comes, Sisyphus or something like that. But anyway, but I mean,
it's something.
But that's a prime example. So basically, there's this deceitful king, and basically punishment in the end was for all eternity in the underworld, was that he had to push uphill this boulder, and when it got near the top, the boulder would go all the way down again, and he'd have to start all over again. And
his light would never come at the end of the tunnel.
That's it. And the thing about it is that the Stoics, if you like, would have actually said, well, you can either push the boulder up and get better at doing it and practice it each day, and you know, or do it in different ways that make you interesting. A bit like a dog behind a cart, if you like. The dog can either be dragged whelping, or it can actually enjoy the moment of being with it, whatever. And it's exact. You know, Greek mythology's got loads to tell us, hasn't it, about living
stories that you can
living a contented life. You know, you can turn the worst things in the world into something that you can still enjoy.
Well, I think that's my obviously with what Marcy was saying as well. I think that's all my questions back to you for now. But if there's anything else, we'll add it to the list.
That's fabulous.
And then you will have that, as Marcia so rightly says. You know, she'll obviously get it all together, and we'll get it to you.
Thank you.
And well done with your East Yorkshire cricket cap.
Thank you very much, Carol. So how long were you in Beverley?
Well, my mum's brother lived in Beverley.
All right.
And my two cousins are still there.
Oh, wow.
And my uncle was in the Air Force, and he married a girl from Beverley, because we're Northumbrian by birth.
Oh, right.
So that's how that all worked out. And of course, my cousins are still there, although I'm based in Sheffield. So I'm only about an hour and a half away.
Yeah. Oh, great.
And you're in
so you get to Beverley quite often then?
I don't go as often as I ought. It's one of these situations where when we see each other, it's like we've never been apart, but we don't see each other as much as we should, really.
Okay.
We go to Whitby more. My family in Whitby are the ones that we visit, before lockdown, of course, but that's another place near you?
Two wonderful places. I love
marvellous,
Perth, and
yeah.
I go to them
I'm going to
both
stop
regularly.
you two from reminiscing
I
for
know.
a minute or two so I can bring the interview to, to a close. Just by saying, no, not at all. That yes, it's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant talking with you today. Lots of things for us to take away. Final message really is that you've helped me personally to think wider about the business, so I can actually also, in being thinking wider, can be kinder in terms of the delivery. So I just wanted to leave you with that final message and just say thank you so much for being with us here today.
Oh, well, it's been an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed it, and it's nice meeting you both. And just say, if you want to do that negotiating video for your business sometime, then I'm happy to do that as well. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tony.
Tony.
Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
Thank you so much.